You will make $1 billion. It literally says that. Okay, see, your handwriting is different here.
That's definitely not let me see that. Let me see that. It's not my handwriting.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Good one.
We're running out of ways to start the show.
No, everyone's like, you just freaking did your fortune teller with the dolly.
Yeah. It's called improv, folks.
Yeah, this is actually art.
Yeah, it's actually highbrow level stuff. And good morning, Los Angeles.
Good morning indeed. It's Monday.
Is it? Oh, yes.
It is. It is for you. It's you. It's you for Monday.
When you just said that, like about what day it actually is right now, I realize I have no idea what's going on.
Right before we started filming, Mordecai obviously was where he should be.
Which is in my seat.
Co-host.
That's for those who don't know, he's our 3-year-old producer.
Right. And just to be clear, that doesn't mean he's been our producer for 3 years. He is 3 years old.
He is quite literally this many.
He is this many. But I turned and I said, Mordecai, what day is it? And he said, I think it's Monday. And I went, I think it's Monday too.
No, literally, I was like, you're right.
Yeah. And it's not.
And now I'm not going to go to work later because I have my days wrong.
Right. But it's Monday.
Can I ask you a question?
I think it's Monday.
You don't have to answer this if you don't feel comfortable. But what's your issue? No, I'm just kidding.
But what's your problem?
Yeah. No, I just am thinking about it because I just love that name. Mordecai's very, very cool. That is an awesome name.
It's sick.
And I'm I'm a big fan of names that are unique and different and you don't hear a lot, but they're not like hard to say and just like kind of like hit your ear wrong. Like, you know, like how celebrities will name their like kid like Fork or something and you're like, what?
Fork.
But
Forky, obviously.
Right. But do you have would you be comfortable sharing any of your baby names that you like?
Oh, absolutely.
Like that you have on your roster?
Okay, so I really like this name for a boy, Karthik.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember you said that.
I just think it is such a cutie, sweet boy name.
Karthik.
I just love it so much. For a girl, I really like the name Kiran, and I really like Simran.
Yeah.
I like the name Zoya. All of those names I think are really good. What about you? Any baby names?
Yeah, I like a lot of like the classic sounding names.
You're like Tom.
Yeah. I love like a name like Dan.
I like really unique names like Bob.
Steve. Yeah. Well, first and foremost, like the name that I've always wanted to name, I don't know if I'm going to have kids, but if I do, like I do have some prepared. A name that I love and I've always wanted to name my child, and now I've determined I think that this can be a gender neutral name, but I love the name Sawyer. I love Sawyer. I love Oliver, Theodore, Parker, Malcolm. I like Luis. I like Eloise. I like
Eloise.
Eleanor.
Yeah.
I like Elliot.
Nice.
I like Henry.
Okay, that's a lot of kids.
I just like...
And that's where we stop.
I love like those kind of like polished sounding names.
Yeah.
But I also kind of think I could have twin boys and name them Peter and Parker.
I do really like that.
Thanks.
I do really like those names.
Middle name Spider-Man.
I also like the concept of, you know, you name a baby and then they grow up to look like that name.
Yeah, like you can't name someone Chad and they don't grow up and look like that.
Exactly. Isn't that crazy?
I think so. You know, I used to like not... I never disliked my name, but I was always, when I was a kid, I was always very jealous of... I thought this idea that like Allison could be Allie, or like Alexis could be Lexi, or like Elizabeth could be Lizzie. Like I thought that was very cool.
Yeah.
And I thought like it would be cool to like have like matching names with people. And I was like, what the hell is Rowan? I've never heard this before in my life. Like I literally, and my middle name is Niles. So I was like, what the hell is going on? Like these names are, as a kid, I was like, what were my parents thinking? As an adult, I love my name.
Yay.
And I think it's like, I think I fit it. I think I'm very Rowan core.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've ever told this on Spitball, but I was actually named after a witch in a book, an Anne Rice novel called The Witching Hour.
Checks out.
Yeah. So I like my name. I've come to be very fond of it. And the irony of it is that I had always like wished I'd have like a cute nickname. And now I hardly ever get called Rowan. Like I feel that when there's only really one person that I feel calls me Rowan regularly. Outside of that, I feel like it's Ro.
Yeah. I feel like I have a complicated relationship with names too, because I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I like changed my name when I was a kid. It's like it's kind of a joke within my family, but when I was in second grade, I told my parents, I told everybody to call me Nia.
Oh. Whoa.
Yeah. And again, like this is just like, you know, when you just like block out a certain part of your life, but then like when you're talking about it, you're like, that was insane.
Yeah.
Like I wrote Nia under the name for all of my school assignments and my homework. I told my entire family to call me Nia. And I remember whenever like I have a distinct memory of when we were taking the tax test, which was like our standardized test for elementary school.
Ugh.
I remember my parents wrote me a card and they were like, good luck, Nia. Like, we love you and stuff. Like, they were very supportive of this. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I just kind of one day was like, Nia's dead. We're back. We're back to Arasha.
We're so back.
Nia can't come to the phone anymore.
Why did you do that?
At first, I hated my name.
It's so beautiful, though.
Thank you. And like you, I'm very happy to hear that you have also reached this place. I love my name now.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with it now. But when I was a kid, you know, and this still happens like today, obviously, it sucks when people don't get it right. For me, it feels like particularly painful whenever people don't spell it right in emails. That feels like a stab for me because my name is right there.
It's right there.
It's in my email. And I know that I don't have a name that probably most people I've never met another Arasha, but the fact that people just kind of guess and write like whatever letters they want to put together or like, you know, it's obviously not a bad thing if you mispronounce it, but if you're just throwing in like a random letter, like there's no N in my name. There's no U.
You can hear every letter that's included in your name.
Right. So it kind of upsets me when it's just like, where is that coming from? Like, are you deriving it from other Indian names that you have heard or making it sound like something that you know? Like that feels particularly painful for me.
I'm right there with you because my name gets mispronounced pretty much every single time it's said or spelled. Same deal, which is like, again, I can't bring myself to like super understand, especially like with Arasha. Like that's just such a clear, in my opinion. I mean, everyone has their own journey with spelling and stuff, but I hardly ever have someone like approach me and be like, because you know, at my job, they get like a little slip with my name on it and then I go meet them and whatnot and they'll be like, Rowan? No.
What?
Like I get Rowan all the time. I get Roman. They just like flip the W upside down. I get, like, I don't know. So it's sometimes I'm just like, oh,
yeah.
No. It's like you can't blame people for like mispronouncing your name, but I get Rowen. I get Rowin.
Yeah.
I get, you know, and I'm like, it's Ann.
Yeah. I've said this before too. Like I work with kids a lot and I love kids. And I was teaching this class of kids and, you know, at the end of it, I was just kind of, it was like the first class I would be continuing to see them. But after the first class, like when I was kind of dismissing them, I was like, okay, you guys, like, thank you so much. Just a reminder again, like, my name's Arasha. Like, I'm going to do my best to remember all of your names and whatever and whatnot. And one of the girls, like, again, I'm not actually pissed off at this. They are kindergartners. But one girl was like, can we have a different name for you that's too long? And I was like, no, you can learn Arasha because I am going to learn your name, you know?
Yeah.
But then as of like the last couple times that I've seen that group of kids, like nothing makes me happier than when I hear 2 or 3 of them being like, Arasha, what are we doing for class today? Yeah. I'm just like, you're like, it's not that I'm super upset with the other girl. It's more just like, wow, these kindergarten kids who see me once a week for an hour are making the effort to remember my name.
Yeah.
Like, that is really meaningful to me. So that makes me feel really, really special.
Well, yes, and you should feel that way.
Thank you.
I've witnessed a lot of times where people will have, and this, I don't know, I can't speak out of experience on this, so forgive me if anything I say comes across ignorant, but it's like, I've definitely heard situations of people having a very like ethnic sounding name to their culture or whatever, and them just being like, but you can just call me this.
Right.
And I kind of like I remember I worked with like a Italian man named Jacopo, and he was like, you can just call me Jacob. And I was like, well, no, I'll just call you by your name.
Right. What do you prefer?
Yeah, like I have somebody that I work with who I've heard a lot of people call him Daryl. I've heard a lot of people call him Darrell. And I'm like, he's like, you can call me whatever. I'm like, no, what do you want to be called?
Yes.
Because I'm not doing that. I'm not saying you can call me whatever. No, you can call me my name. It's Rowan.
Right. I always make a point. This feels like such a pointed example, but I always ask when someone says their name is Michael or Mike. I'm like, do you prefer Mike or Michael?
Right.
Because I think, honestly, like, that matters too. We hear Michael, and all of us are just like, you just became Mike.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, they might hate that name.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there have been a handful of times that I ask someone named Michael, and a lot of people around them call them Mike, but they will be like, I prefer Michael. Like, names are your identity.
It's your identity. You should not sacrifice it for the convenience of someone else who just is too lazy to say it correctly.
Well said.
Well, and like my sister-in-law is Japanese. Her name's Sayaka. And it's like, I'm not going to just like give her another name because it's not something that I was like immediately like familiar with.
Right.
Like,
there's beauty to names. There's purpose. There's history behind names. Like, it is incredibly important. And that's why I think, yes, not trying to make it easier for others, but also extending that curiosity and truly understanding, making sure that you're saying another person's name right and stuff like that. Because there's also the other end of, yes, it's good to advocate and be like, this is how you say my name, or this is how I prefer it. But sometimes it's hard. And so if you're going to put some of that weight on yourself and you ask the question, it makes it easier for the person who doesn't want to say, I don't like to be called Mike. But if you ask, they can say, I prefer Michael.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have a story to tell you.
Okay.
I am so excited. I need to like hype myself up for this.
Oh my gosh.
So we met yesterday for a pre-production meeting and just to hang, and I told you, I was like, I have a story, but I have to tell it to you on camera.
Yes, which is so real when you're doing any live work with anybody. You're like, I have to do something crazy, but we're going to do it on camera instead. And it's like,
yeah, and you're like, okay, great.
Right.
But normally, you know, but in this situation, I was like, I just have to, because it's a story that I would tell anyways. I actually recorded like a little vlog of me telling the story and put it on my close friends, and then I deleted it because I didn't want you to see, because I was like, I have to tell it on Spitball.
Okay.
Okay, so let me preface by saying that I went and saw The Substance the other night.
Yes.
And I know you enjoyed it.
Yes.
Yeah, so we went to see The Substance, and we will talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
What's important to know is I felt a lot of like anxiety going into like see this movie.
Sure.
Because although I love horror, I don't love gore. And like everyone had like described it to me as like gore beyond all reason. And I was like, I don't know if I can deal with that.
Yeah.
I will tell you now, upon seeing the movie, although the gore was quite intense, I would label it a little bit more like campy gore as opposed to like something like Saw that's like torture gore porn.
Sure.
And yes, there were like obviously moments where I was like, this is really gnarly. Like I was definitely like closing my eyes and stuff.
Yeah. If you haven't already seen The Substance, these will probably include some spoilers.
Spoilers for sure.
So move forward in the episode.
Spoilers for sure, because I definitely want to talk about it a little bit.
Absolutely.
But anyways, so all this to say, like everyone had made me a little bit anxious to see this movie, so I was feeling like a little on edge. So we go to the AMC Burbank 16, which is a movie theater I don't particularly love going to anymore. I have gone there for years, and I feel
like
with
the big steps leading up, right?
And the Batman statue. Every time I go there, something weird happens. I literally saw a fist fight at the early screening of the Bob's Burgers movie like 2 years ago there. So I don't know. The vibes there are always off. I prefer City Walk. So me and Bridget park the car. This is my girlfriend. We're on level like P2, like we're not all the way down, but we're like enough. And we call the elevator. The elevator doors open. It's just us and 2 people in the elevator. And it is a man, and he is pulling up his pants over his boner that is out, covering himself up. And his girlfriend has her pants and her underwear at her ankles and is completely, I gave them a warning because I was like, this is like, if he's around, he needs to not listen. But literally, they were banging in the elevator and completely naked from waist down exposed.
Oh my God.
I was like, so the elevator doors open. He pulls his pants, he like pulls up real quick and we see him, we go, oh my God. And then we look at her and she's completely like exposed and naked. And he runs. So concerning, first of all, was scared for a moment. He just books it. And here's exactly what I said. I went, hello? And me and Bridget are just standing there going, and he books it. And this girl, it's like first day putting on pants queen. She could not get her pants on for the life of her. She was just standing there like struggling to pull them up. And we're just like standing there for like literally like 20 seconds in awe.
And are they like laughing? Are they just like...
It's like silent. Like I feel like my ears were ringing. Like I couldn't even like process like the alternate like things going on. So he runs and then she finally like she just gives up on trying to get her pants up and zipped and cover herself. So she like starts running out of the elevator like pretty much half exposed. And he's like from across the parking garage, he's like, baby, come here. Which I will say was a little bit relieving because to have an elevator door open and a man run from a woman who is exposed from her pants down is like literally horrifying and scary.
Yep.
So it was relieving to know that they were together, like they were a couple.
Yeah.
Baby, come here. No, he's like, baby, come to the car. Come here. And she's just like running with her pants like, and so, oh my God, me and Bridget were like, I can't even put a word.
Shocked.
So beyond shocked. It was like the last thing I would have ever expected to see. And then it's like, okay, I want to say this and I don't want to be like a big weenie because obviously it's hilarious, right? Like these people were like doing something, but I will say it made me feel really like so weird. And I was already very anxious to go see this movie.
Yeah.
And then like we kept calling the elevator because I didn't want to go in that elevator. I was freaked out. Also, like, I'm so confused what they were doing because literally like this elevator ride is maybe 4 seconds.
Right.
And they had time to completely like get naked from waist down and be in this elevator.
Yeah.
In public.
No, it was foolish of them. And they like, yes, you're right. Like that can be a fun, funny, spontaneous thing to do. But it can put other people on alert because of the connotation that it gives off.
Well, and so like we couldn't we keep calling to try to get like a different elevator to like come because I just felt weird about going in there. And we like get upstairs and we were gonna grab Chipotle before the movie. And I just started like having this like sense of like this sensation that I was like, ew, I just like saw something I was not supposed to see. And like that I did not want to see.
Yeah.
And it was making my skin crawl. It was making me feel like overwhelmed with emotion because I was like, I also think I just have some sensitivity to like the idea that it could have been a situation in which it was not, but like an assault situation. So I was like, I got really in my head about that.
Yeah.
And I just was like, what? And then I started thinking about like, what if the elevator doors had opened and there had been children?
I was just thinking that.
I'm like, it was upsetting me to no end. I was like, what if there had been children there?
Yeah. That is a
what
public
is wrong with you?
Parking garage. That's a family-centered area. There's an irresponsibility to it that is not funny in the slightest.
And it's like, I don't want to sound like prude and being like, listen, I can get freaky too. Like, but it's like, you have to be circumstantial with your freak. Right. And if your freak is in a public area where children are and elderly people are and like whatever, like
then it's not okay.
Don't do that.
No.
And it was like 8 p.m. it's like not even like late at night. Actually, in fact, it was 8 p.m. because the movie was at 8:10.
Yeah.
And so I just like got like so sick thinking about if a child had been like there when the doors opened, or like I've like been to that movie theater like with like I think about if the doors would have opened and I would have been with my family, like, and we experienced that together. Thank God it was just me and my girlfriend, because she did a good job of like regulating me and like being like, yes, that was just not something we asked to see tonight.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry that happened.
It's okay. Like, I also, like, I understand the funniness of the idea that we pressed an elevator, it opened, and there's two people, like, banging.
Right.
But I also just was like, I can't help but feel extremely disturbed by this.
Absolutely. And two things can be true. We can identify the comedy in that while also understanding the implications of who the audience might have been if not you and Bridget.
Well, and we said, we were like, if the doors would have opened and they got off on a level that a police officer was coming, they would have been arrested, right? Like, for sure, right?
It
like
was,
they definitely
it was
would have
just
been
dumb on their
detained or
part.
something.
They definitely, I think, were just having like a reckless moment, and I'm not saying like, you know, they necessarily need to be condemned, but you're right, like they should consider where they might be seen, you know? Like, again, it's like, yeah, there's something to be said about like, yeah, getting freaky, being crazy, like adding, I guess, that extra spice for sure. But it's like, that should still be in some form private.
Well, yes. Like an elevator that takes 4 seconds to get somewhere, and for it just was like, I was like, I'm missing the circumstance here.
Yeah, don't love that.
Yeah, it was really bizarre, and I don't know. I just was like, this is so not something that I like needed to see.
It's wild. I can't believe that happened to you.
Yeah, I know, right?
Of course, it would happen to you though.
It was just like, I could not believe it. It was like and it made me start thinking, right, about how we as people, like, these people were very clearly doing something wrong. We weren't doing anything wrong. But it's like, I almost felt like I like had to I almost felt like I had to be like, oh my God, sorry.
Right.
When it's like, I'm not sorry.
No, you were just existing.
You did something insane.
Yeah. And put people in that uncomfortable situation.
And it made me think of like how often we compromise and crumble under uncomfortable situations because it's like, it's easier to feel like, oh my God, my bad, when it's like, no, you're bad.
Yeah.
And then I also was thinking, and I did not do this because I would not have done this, but like, imagine I'm like, oh my God, film, record.
Oh my God.
You know, like, this is crazy. Look what's happening. Like, record.
Right.
Obviously, I didn't do that, but someone else definitely could have.
I mean, there might be cameras in that elevator. Like, it's like, clearly they didn't really care who was going to see them.
And lastly, on this situation, if I was the woman and that was my boyfriend, I'd be like, excuse me? You left me in the elevator doors open and you booked it. You left me in the elevator with my pants on the ground, compromised. Who knows who was on the other side? Like, who could have come in the elevator with me and stopped it?
Oh, absolutely.
Emergency stopped it or something.
Oh my God.
And you left me. Like, the boyfriend, if anything, should have like stepped in front of her and hit the closed door button and been like, let's get it together, and we'll be humiliated when we walk out, but like, I'm not leaving you. But he left her.
Yeah. On all accounts, inappropriate.
Wild. If you guys are going to bang in an elevator, make sure you got like a few floors to go. Okay?
Right. Or just emergency stop that shit.
Ugh, I'm getting so much more germophobic as I get older. I don't know about you.
Yeah. I feel that. You start to actually like think about the stuff that you're doing a little bit more, everything that you're touching. Yeah. I'm washing my hands more regularly.
Totally. I feel like I was not as germophobic as I am now, but now that I know that people are like literally like boner out in the elevator, it makes me think
boner
twice.
Out in the elevator is crazy.
It was crazy. He was wearing like blue sports shorts and she was wearing some weird suede pants. She could not get her pants like up over her ass, and I'm just standing there like
I just started laughing to myself because I just started thinking about how this dolly has just been in between us.
Right. The audience is like, cool, what's that about?
Okay, so they're going to talk about names.
This is just...
Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, we have Dolly Parton today.
Loving.
You like that?
Yeah.
We have Dolly Parton in studio today. Dolly, how are you?
Here, can you speak into the mic? Okay, we actually don't
Thank
use
you.
words like that on this show.
Yeah, dolly inappropriate.
So
We have a dolly in between us because today we would like to discuss moving. I've never made that sound before, and I think I'm really good at it.
That is good.
Moving.
Whoa. Spooky season.
Yeah.
You should put that on your voiceover reel. 3 minutes of it.
I should reach out to I like send it to all of the voiceover like agents around like a mass reel of like, hey guys, check out my reel.
Hey,
and
touching base. Did you know I could do this?
Hollywood, my number is below.
I was thinking like a cow, like moving. I'm so delirious right now.
Right, same. I used to think I could do a tangent. I used to think I could do like a phone vibrating really well. Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
Okay, I have to do like something weird with my hands. Okay, hold on. Okay, wait.
That is great.
Did I get there?
No, absolutely. Those last two were it for sure.
Okay, wait. Here, let me try again. That was it.
That was good.
That was it. That was
see
it.
something I can do?
Yeah. I think I did know that you could do that.
I'm getting worse.
For a second, I thought you were literally just going to go, want to see what I can do?
Yeah, you want to see what I can do? Hold on.
Check out what I can do.
Yeah, you want to see something I can do?
All the listeners are like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I
can't see you.
Does anyone just listen?
We're just punching ourselves.
We're punching and slapping.
Okay, but moving. We want to discuss moving because your girl just moved.
Arasha used to live 8 minutes from me, and now she lives 1,000.
Yes. I know.
And her address is.
I just moved. Hopefully for the last time in a while. I have been moving like year by year across leases.
Worst.
Which has been a lot, especially this last year. Like that was the quickest darn lease I had ever darned had.
No, it really was. I feel like we just literally were sitting on like your patio. Like that was
a year.
Were you even in there for a year?
A year.
Yeah, because I remember your Christmas decorations.
Yep. Full year. So that's what's insane.
That is crazy.
So that being said, since that's what's kind of happening in my life, we are going to talk about moving in general, the stresses of moving.
Moving sucks.
Moving can suck. I mean, something that I have already, I think, experienced is like, obviously it's very exciting for me. I'm very excited like in my move. But at the same time, I feel like I also have been like moment by moment, I'm getting hit with this feeling of like, whoa, this is a change.
Oh, big time.
Like moving itself is exciting for me because I am a creature of change. I really like change. I move around, as you know, I move my furniture around in my apartment all the time. I move things here and there, like just for the sake of something fresh, and it feels great. But it is almost a fact that like picking up and moving somewhere is just unsettling and stressful for a lot of people. Even like any sort of change, right? Just a change in weather, a change in climate of any sense can even affect our health. Like people get sick and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So moving on its own is just a stressful thing to do, regardless of if you're upgrading or not.
Yes. It's also like such a push and pull of like the excitement of moving. Like the push and pull of like glee and dread.
Yeah.
Because it's literally like when you're like walking into your new place, when you're carrying things up and into your new place, you're like, yes, like look at this new space of mine. Heck yeah. And then you have to go back to your other apartment and you're like, stupid go away apartment.
Right.
I gotta carry shit down.
And then you gotta vacuum and then you gotta sweep up. You gotta fill in all the holes and stuff.
Dude.
Nobody wants to fill in the holes.
No one wants to fill in our holes at all.
Yeah.
And it's like, I also feel that I don't know, because your last building, it seemed like the management was pretty nice.
Yes, had a really, really good manager.
Yeah, it seems that way. The managers I've only ever had were big, huge freaks.
Yeah,
like
which is more on par, I think, with most people.
I remember, so when I moved out of my last apartment, yeah, you're so right. Like the closing shop of an apartment that you've just been in is like the most annoying thing ever. And I remember our last building that we lived in, it was like, we didn't have the best relationship with our building manager because she was like literally the weirdest person alive. And so am I. So we clashed. And we did a walkthrough with her, and I could tell she was like performing. Like she was like had her checkboard. She's like looking around at our perfectly pristine apartment, and she's like looking. And we had like filled in everything, cleaned. Girl, we cleaned. And she's like walking around. She's like, okay, you guys. Oh boy. You guys, I mean, come on. What am I supposed to do with this? Like, I feel like she was like performing and getting ready to not give us our security deposit back. Like there was like an imprint of like a picture frame that we had up for a little while. Like there was just like the imprint that it had been there. And she was like, what do you expect me to do about this? And I was like, I don't know. I'm not the building manager. I'm leaving and I cleaned up for you.
Yeah.
And she just was like acting so crazy. There was like a part where she was like walking and she was like, do you guys see that? That's going to be about $300. And we literally were like looking, it's just at the ceiling and we were like, what are you pointing at?
And it's like most places too. It's kind of like with Airbnb where they're charging you for cleaning, but they do the cleaning. So it's like, why? Like I remember in our last apartment, Logan and I, like we deep cleaned the apartment. We got it all pristine and stuff. And she was like, oh, why'd you do this? We're going to charge you guys for cleaning anyway.
Right.
Well, then if we didn't clean, you'd come in here and take more off of our rent because of what it looked like.
Right.
Like you have to have it pristine. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, they're still going to charge you for cleaning on top of that. Mm-hmm. So they clean up the mess that you already cleaned. Yeah. And then you don't get any of your security deposit back.
Right. Our building manager had told us, she was like, we're going to shampoo the carpets and like paint the walls. And then was like mad when there was like an imprint of a picture frame. And we were like, nice. Yeah. I feel like the security deposit thing is like, I don't know. It's also like I kind of just come to terms with like the fact that I'm like, okay, sometimes you just don't get that back. Sometimes you change things up and you just
But
don't
sometimes it's like first and last month's rent.
Yes.
Like, give it.
Moving is very stressful and I really don't like doing it. I mean, I will have to move again in my life. Eventually, I know it, but like I'm so like content where I am right now. Like,
totally.
I live in like my favorite home that I've ever lived in like my entire life right now. And so I'm very happy where I'm at. But same as you, I think I've been through 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I've been through 5 apartments in my adult life.
Oh, yeah. I think maybe.
Yeah.
I'm on my 5th right now.
Yeah. It's like, I'm sick of this. Like, I just like having a landing ground, being somewhere. The stress of moving, the paperwork, the finding. I feel like something that people don't like talk about is like how go time moving is when you're like, your situation's a little bit different in this scenario, but it's like when you have to find a place to live, it's like you are also like closing down shop on where you were living while also finding somewhere that suits you that is available, which is like hard to come by.
Oh, no, it's actually so paradoxical because it's like, oh, we're going to have you move in on the 1st. And it's like, okay, but my lease ends on the 31st. Where do you go for a day? And where are your things going to go? And what, you're just supposed to take off both of those days? Like, it's so twisted that like a lot of the times I feel like what my friends are doing now, which is of course expensive, is that they will sign a lease for an earlier date than their lease ends to give them time to slowly transition and move your things over. Yeah. But again, like that is difficult to do because then you have more money that you're putting out. You still don't have your security deposit back yet. Like it just ends up being more money that you have to put down for a basic need of moving all of your things out.
Yeah, it's like dating, like, right? It's like you have a time frame in which you have to get out of the place where you're in, and then you have to find somewhere to move into, but you have to like make a list of like places that you think are good, and then you have to inquire, and then half the time like they don't have anything available.
Right.
It's like whatever. The place where I live right now, I love, and literally we had sent Emily to scope it out because like we were all like at like working that day or whatever. And the people that lived in my home now, like before us, it was so bizarre. It's a 4-bedroom, and it literally, there were like 9 people living in it.
Oh,
It was,
yes,
like,
I remember that.
so strange, like whatever. So when Emily went to visit it, she was like, it's kind of like they have it looking insane, but it's a really nice home.
Yep.
And so I remember she sent a video and all of us just said like, sign whatever you need to, we'll take it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even see the apartment before I signed the stuff because I was like, is it good? She was like, it's great. And I was like, did you get the paperwork? She said, yeah. I said, let's sign it.
Let's
do
it
right now.
Yeah.
Because I also like, that's the other thing is like when you find a good spot and you're like, I have to do all this right now because obviously a million other people want this.
You got to jump on it. You have to.
Yeah.
Like it a lot of the times is first come, first serve because they just need money as a building. They're just like, we're going to take whoever is going to pay us quickest, which is also why freaking moving or lease applications cost money. Like what? You got to flesh out like $50-$60 just to apply?
Yeah.
What is this, college?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's annoying. I remember my building managers are I remember they asked when we applied for selfies of all of us.
They're like pretty people only.
Yeah, no, literally, they're like, we want to make sure you're not ugly.
Right.
It was so funny. We were like, okay, get together. We like took a family photo and we were like, jeez.
Yes, okay. That's
Yeah.
peculiar.
I guess they just want to make sure we weren't weird. And I don't know.
What was it like for you moving to LA?
That was stressful. I had to. So I moved from Orlando to LA, and I remember I was really like excited for LA, but I felt sad leaving Orlando behind. I felt particularly sad because I had a really nice bedroom set that I had to sell. And I had only had it for like a short amount of time, so I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
So I sold that. Because when I moved to LA, I moved with my 3 other friends. So there were 4 of us, and we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, and we shared bedrooms, and we slept in twin beds all the way up until 2022, because from 2018 to 2022, because unfortunately the pandemic happened and we lost everything halfway through that experience. So in the time that we were like wanting to like move into like a home where we could all have our own space and whatnot, it's just like we just had nothing. And it was like Pandemic City, USA. So anyways, I had to sell a bunch of stuff, but I had a lot of stuff that I did want to bring like with me. So I hired a moving company. And moving companies, the verdict is out for me on that. If I could have done things differently, perhaps I would have just started fresh when I got out here to LA, because I've always wanted to tell this story on the pod, but I've never had the chance. I hired a company to move my stuff out. They show up, put it in a truck, and on the day that they collected my stuff, I was supposed to fly out of Orlando and fly to Los Angeles the next day. I was supposed to deliver my car to like a car moving service.
Yep.
And they called me that day and said, we've made an error. Your like transportation of your vehicle is going to be $3,000 more than we quoted you.
What?
And I said, I don't have that. I'm 18 years old. Well, was I? No, I was like 19, 20. And I was like, I don't have that. Like, I'm putting everything into moving to LA. I don't have that. So I said, okay, well, cancel my order. And then I canceled my flight. And I said, I guess I'm driving across the country tomorrow. And so I had to, like, last minute recruit my dad. He drove with me, so shout out. And we drove across the country. And we were kind of like, okay, we'll get here this time, and then we'll make it just in the nick of time for like the furniture to also be delivered.
Oh.
And then I'll have my car, my furniture. And I also was moving into an apartment that I had never seen before. We flew out here. We looked at a unit in the building, but not our unit. And we just were like, sure, that works. At the Ava Burbank, you're my enemy, by the way.
Oh.
And so we drive to LA. It takes like 4 days, whatever. We get there. And we get to our apartment. Emily and Bree flew in, so they met me like shortly after I like arrived by car. we were like, oh my God, yay, a new apartment. It's empty, whatever. And I'm like, cool, the furniture's supposed to be here in like a day or two. Well, what ends up happening? I don't hear from the moving company for like weeks. And my furniture is just like, where is it? I don't hear from them. I'm like calling and they're basically like, yeah, they're on the way. Like they're just, like, stop calling, they're coming. And I'm like, okay. Like, and the reason that I did hire was because like I had this nice couch, the one that I still have. I had like a piano, like I had all this stuff. Which again, in retrospect, perhaps I would have started fresh, but I really didn't have the money to start fresh. I was
Definitely.
like, I have this stuff now. I can either like start over, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I don't hear from the moving company for like weeks. And now I'm in like my brand new apartment and we have no furniture. We go to IKEA, we buy our beds, and like that's kind of it. And it has like boxes of like my clothes and my belongings and whatever. So finally, I get a call and they're like, your truck is arriving in like 20 minutes. And I was like, hello? And I was like, okay. And I was just not in the position to like argue or ask questions or whatever. And so the moving truck shows up and I'm like, hi? Like, where have you been?
Right.
And they just kind of were like, yeah, well, you know, God, stuff happens. We had to pull over here and we had, well, whatever. And so they arrive and I want to say they were probably a week and a half late. Okay. I said weeks, but like, I don't think it was like 3 weeks. It was like a week and a half late. So still
late.
Insane. And they pull in and the guy calls me and he's like, so we're going to have to park all the way at the like end of the road because we can't park on this street. And I said, that's not true. If you've ever been to the Ava Burbank, there is a beautiful, long, wide road. And it is like one of the first apartments everyone that moves to LA moves into. They are like used to people moving in with trucks. And he goes, yeah, we're going to have to park all the way down on a different street over and carry your stuff. And for every like 50 feet we walk, it's going to be an extra $100.
What
the
hell?
And so I said, I like went down again. I'm like 20 years old. And I said, how much will it cost for you to just put the truck in park and I will carry the shit myself? And he was like, free. And I said, put it in park. And I literally, thank God I had roommates, but I was like, I'm sorry, bitches. We got to carry this shit. And so I go to the truck. My stuff is damaged. My couch is leather and there's a tear like across the back. There was like a chip off like the stand that like my keyboard was on, like all this shit. And me and two other of my roommates had to carry all this heavy ass shit. And I remember we just put it in the apartment, like, and we were like, just get it in there and we will like figure it out. And that was basically that. It took us like an hour to like carry everything in. And the guys just sat on the truck and watched us and were like laughing at us. And then I remember he was like, you have to sign this saying you received it. And I remember I signed it and I literally looked at him and I said, fuck you, get the fuck out of my face. And he was like, have a good day. And he left. And that was my experience moving like to LA.
Holy shit.
And then I had all my stuff and I was like, I have everything. Some of it's damaged. And I tried to like call and get a hold of like this company. Like obviously this was years ago. Like I don't remember the name of it. If I did, I would literally say it. But
seriously, a week and a half late and then pulling all that shit?
Yeah. And so I tried to call and get my money. I tried for weeks to complain, get my money back. And they would just, it was obviously this moving company. It was a scam operation. And I just remember I spent like a week, like all day, every day writing like horrible reviews, like on Yelp and whatever. Cause I was like, don't like save yourself. Don't use this company.
That clearly made 18 stops across the country for people to come in, use your furniture and then leave.
I
like,
thought
that's
for
what
sure.
happened.
I thought for sure it was like over. Like I thought like all my stuff had been stolen. Sorry for how long that story was.
No,
but yeah.
That was crazy. I literally never heard that. I didn't know that your move to LA was that chaotic.
But then I got all my stuff and I was like, yay,
LA!
Yeah.
Wow.
So if I were to give advice, I would for people that are looking to like make a big move, I would really consider whether you think like a moving company is the way to go, or if selling your stuff and starting fresh is the way to go. And
Yeah.
if you are going to opt for moving company, don't make my mistake
Right.
and be a stupid, like naive 20-year-old and hire the first company you can think of.
Right. It's honestly like a lot of this stuff you can't really learn it until you like fail at it. So it's like a little bit of it, I think, give yourself the grace of being allowed to make mistakes. You know, I remember the first time I was like figuring out how to set up my internet or how to like build furniture for your apartment, or, you know, reaching out to a realtor and stuff like that. Like these are all very complicated adulting issues that are really hard to figure out. And a lot of the times, like, you aren't given the tools. Nobody teaches you how to do that stuff. So hopefully if you are going to be moving, you can listen to this episode and it'll give some kind of guidance on finding an apartment. I know it's also particularly difficult to find an apartment, namely one that in a place that you're not living in, right? Like, I remember when I moved to LA, my roommates and I, we all FaceTimed the building manager, and she was like showing us the unit and the building and stuff. And we also just kind of had to take a gamble and be like, that looks great. Like, we're going to sign it, even though we are in Boston and have no idea that this, like, if this is a real building or if this is just an empty room in your warehouse and you're going to take our money.
Right.
Like, it's very difficult. I have a friend who just moved to LA, and she has like a nightmare story of moving to LA, where her and her friend, they found an apartment on apartments.com, which is usually solid for places. They found an apartment and they reached out to this person, and the person was like messaging them, and they said that they kind of felt weird vibes messaging. And the person was like seemingly like saying, you know, the apartment is available, whatever. You can send me like money for the security deposit and whatnot. And they were like, okay, I'm feeling a little like sussed out. So they reached out to apartments.com and they were like, hey, can you verify this listing? Like, is this, like, it's already verified on the website. Can you just make sure that this is a person who is like going to be able to rent us this apartment?
Yeah.
Because they're asking for money. We just want to make sure if we can send them money. And apartments.com was like, yes, they are okay.
Oh my God.
Like, they're a verified listing, so you can send them money. They sent this person money and they never heard from them.
How much?
I don't know.
I mean, if it's a deposit for like a apartment, like definitely a lot.
At least $2,000, probably each, that was given and completely lost. And she has been trying to get apartments.com to reach back out to her. She's been trying to like have any sort of claim out there or whatever. Like, horrible nightmare story. And she's like, and I have nothing. Like, we called the cops and they were like, we got nothing for you. Like,
that is
it just like, it sucks that there's all of these systems that are created for us to fail at, and then there's nothing to help when we are already kicked down, when we've lost money, we've lost property, we've lost items. Like, what can you do other than go on TikTok and rant about it, or write a horrible review about a company that scammed you?
Right.
There's no protection.
That is so scary. I had something similar happen when I was first moving out here, where I remember I was like perusing like listings, or maybe I already lived out here, and basically like someone was like, I was like going to schedule like a viewing, and they were like, oh yeah, just you can come like later tonight, and the key's like in the lockbox located here, like let yourself in, and I won't be there, but go ahead and walk around and whatever. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna get murdered.
Right.
I was like, I'm not gonna go on my own.
The amount of places that like I feel like we are sent, you know, like that we're just like, oh, go here, show up here, like check out this apartment if you like this, like, and we just show up.
Yeah.
We're just like, all right, I'm touring the spot, and I guess this is good for me to live in.
I feel like I also like, it's unfortunate that I feel that my only experience I can really like weigh in on like having a big move is like to Los Angeles. And I do think that moving here is not like an ordinary experience.
Right.
Everything's weird.
How was the shift, do you think, for yourself moving to LA as like a community of LA, or like the city of Los Angeles? Like, what do you feel like you have learned since you've been out here in LA that is so LA core?
I think like I think like weirdly when I was moving here, I kind of like knew exactly what to expect because like we've all been like watching like LA on TV like and like online forever. So I kind of was like, oh, I already know like about all these things. Like now I get to go like experience them. I don't know. That's a good question. Do you have like an answer to it?
I mean, I remember definitely one of the things that was debunked for me, like, because you're right, we do see LA and Hollywood on TV. We hear of these like much larger things. For me, I thought the Hollywood Walk of Fame was this gorgeous like banquet hall of just like oh, you walk down this like very majestic street and like all of these stars are on the floor. It couldn't be worse.
Yeah, you'll never catch me. If I'm on Hollywood Boulevard, it's because I've been like kidnapped.
Like and I still have friends that visit that are like, can we go see the Hollywood Walk of Fame? And I'm like, you're actually standing on it right now.
Look down. It literally is my name. There you go.
Yeah, it's right under the puke and right under that sticky gum that's been there for 17 years.
I know. I tell my guests will be like, should we do Hollywood Walk of Fame? And I'm like, if you want. I'm like, I mean, might as well. If you are traveling here, you can go see it, but
you won't even really see it.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people are leaving LA right now.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've noticed a lot of people moving out of here.
Okay. I guess I'm not upset about that. There's too many people here.
Yeah. It's wild. I think the culture here is something that, like, of course, was shocking, but anticipated by me, you know, because it's like people, when you tell them you're moving to LA, people are like, oh, that's gonna be blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, everything here is expensive, it's crowded, and people are crazy. But at the same time, like, I feel pretty firmly that, like, I don't know where life will take me all the way, but like I have very much enjoyed my developmental years of my 20s in LA because like I love being here. The things, like, I love that something is always happening.
Yep.
You don't have to worry if a concert is coming to town. It is. You don't have to worry about there's nothing to do on a Friday night. There's something to do and it's awesome.
Totally.
You don't have to, like, you know, it's like, I love the hustle and bustle of the city. I love that every corner you turn, there's filming. I like that, like, I get to, like, go to, like, concerts and see someone that I like and then literally also see them, like, at the diner after their show.
Right.
Like, you know, like, I do like those things. But I don't know, I was just saying this, it's like, there's going to have to come a point for me with LA where I'm like, either I, like, hit some stride of success out here and I live the LA life that I want to, or I pivot into, like, another lifestyle for myself, because I'm not really married to the idea of, like, struggling forever.
But, absolutely.
But it's like, at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I'm just taking it day by day, and I love it here.
I think you used a lot of buzzwords that people do always talk about with LA too, particularly struggle and cost of living. And I'm assuming that definitely has to do, that is a huge part of why a lot of people leave LA. Like, you come out here, you try it for a couple of years, and then eventually you're like, I actually can't afford this lifestyle. It is freaking expensive out here. Like,
it's unreal.
I mean, like, living to start with, like, just your apartment, like, wherever you need to stay, like, it is almost essential that you have roommates to start out with, unless you get lucky, you find, like, a good gem of an apartment, but then that usually means sacrificing some things. Like, oh yeah, I live alone, but I don't have a dishwasher. Oh, I live in a 1-bedroom, but there isn't an in-unit washer dryer. Like, you know, or there's no laundry in the building. Like, it typically means that you're going to have to sacrifice a lot of things and struggle for a couple of years out in LA. And a lot of that sometimes I think is glorified for people and their success stories, right? You often are like, oh yeah, I remember when I was living in my shoebox apartment, I didn't know, like, if I was, like, you know, I was just going to have, like, frozen meals for dinner and stuff like that. And you hear these stories and then you kind of get excited because you're like, oh yes, like, I'm doing that right now, but soon enough I will live this, like, big, lavish, luxurious lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not always guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's not always the most realistic. Like, there's the culture in LA is everybody thinks I'm this big star. I am going to be famous. I'm going to have a lot of money. And again, it can be a little poisoning if you come to this city ready to strip all other aspects of your identity and your livelihood in this potentially false hope that you will make it and it'll all be worth all the sacrifice.
I think the struggle stories are kind of lame, to be honest. I've always felt that way, where it's like your success is not valuable unless you like literally were in poverty for the majority of it. Like, you know, I don't know. Like, I think there is more of a valuable narrative to the idea of like, I really worked hard and I made the sacrifices that I needed to in order to like try to chase like this dream and whatnot. Like that I can respect. But like whenever people are kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to like sound like a hater, but it's like, I don't like, where am I going with this? It's like, we shouldn't have to like glamorize like poverty. Like we should literally have a system that is set up with an abundance of opportunity and takes care of people so that they don't have to like literally wonder where their next meal is coming from just so they can like live a happy experienced life.
Or have this great ambition at the end of their life so that way they can eventually achieve this standard basic amount of well-being.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's like you hear all these stories where it's like, oh, well, did you hear about this artist? It's like they lived in their car so that they could play their guitar. It's like, why couldn't they have just had like affordable, like priced living life and also did okay?
And it's like that's how we can actually grant stability to everybody that comes out to you here to LA with these big dreams, you know? Like it's going to be a lot easier to enjoy the journey if we are all better equipped with that, you know? Like, and that's obviously a much larger story of like the world, society, civilization, of equity in the resources, but it would be so great for everybody if we were kind of all able to just survive out here so that we could reach for our dreams while still maintaining like a stable, healthy day job and a good sense of self, like not have to reach the lowest of lows before we eventually like climb to this crazy amount of success, you know?
Yeah, and it's like we've talked about on this show before, like we are here to like completely like break apart the idea that it's like if you come out here to LA, like your full-time job is just like grinding. It's like, no, we have to do other things to stay afloat. Like,
yeah,
I hate how like a lot of people keep that a secret where it's like they want to like give this like idea that they only do this, and this on social media. So it's like, look how hard I'm working at my dreams. And in the background, they're working other things to help themselves stay afloat because it's like, I've had times where I felt bad where it's like, well, am I not, you know, as dedicated to my craft as I need to be because it's not like because I have to work jobs to, no, it's like focus on staying alive so you literally can achieve your goals.
Absolutely.
Don't like literally make yourself like starve so that you can go to auditions. Like,
yeah. It just makes more sense, you know, like, and I've just been embracing that a lot more. I think I've been hearing it a lot more on podcasts that I've been listening to, this idea of like, we do not need to be embarrassed to be working jobs. No. Like it is a good thing for having side hustles, for having like side gigs. It doesn't need to be like, oh, no, I only do this like full time. I don't do this other job. It's like, no, it's impressive that you're able to manage your schedule, that you're able to want this for yourself, that you're able to work hard and like budget your finances and stuff like that. Like you do what you need to do to survive out here.
Yeah. And that's the real grind, right? It's like you are dedicated to chasing your goals. So you do the things so that you can afford to stay out here and do that. You don't have to give this impression that it's like, I'm only like auditions all the time. It's like, no one's judging you if you have to go serve tables or work at a coffee shop or have a job. We all have jobs. That's how it works.
I find it particularly propelling for myself to just twist it a little bit in my head because, like we've said, you come to LA and you have these dreams, but it helps me to turn it around and actually just think of what I already have.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, even just that, I always wanted to be in LA.
Yeah.
Like,
I like it here.
We made it to LA. That itself is already like a huge win. And that's something to be grateful for. On top of that, community. Like, I feel like there are so many people that are alone in LA. There are so many people that are just doing this struggle by themselves. So I find it incredibly lucky to have best friends out here.
Yeah.
It is so exciting to think about that. Like that sense of community, if you can find that in a very competitive city like LA, like that is stability for me. That is how I'm able to keep going, because of the people around me and because I'm able to look back and just feel grateful for that.
That's the part of it too, right? Is that it's like, now I've kind of crossed the threshold of like just being like, I have to be in LA because my dreams are out here. They are still out here, but now my life is out here.
Yep.
All of my best friends are out here. I've built a family here. I've built a community and like whatever, you know? So it's like, I don't know. Like sometimes people are in LA just because it's where they chose to be.
Yeah.
There's so much judgment that comes from people sometimes. Like I remember when I was younger and I was moving to LA, they're like, really?
Yeah.
What are you going to do out there?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I'll figure it out. When you move somewhere, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know, you figure it out.
It's interesting. I feel like I have felt the opposite with people. Like in all the freaking weddings that I've been to, every time someone's like, where are you from? And I say LA, I always get, ooh, LA. Or people are always like, oh, LA, so fancy. Oh my gosh, like so lavish. Oh, you're an actor. Like It's almost like there's a sense of ridicule in it for sure. But because there is this stereotype of like, oh, everybody's an actor in LA, you know? And it's kind of like, well, that shouldn't lessen everybody's desires, everybody's dreams. Like, there's also the distinction of some people come out to LA to be famous. Some people come out to LA to be famous for acting. Like it's all under, your own personal journey and what you kind of find out here. But personally, my best advice is to change your expectations out of a city and instead not be like, oh, here is where I will blah, blah, blah. And this is going to happen for me here. And I hope I get this in LA and this and this and this. And instead, just give yourself the expectation that I hope to grow.
Yeah.
Because you'll just like, you'll peel back more layers of yourself in a new city. You'll find new people. Like, I always get particularly happy too. Like, Logan is a great example of a best friend who has been by my side for a long time, obviously. And I took him with me from Boston to LA, of course. But I get especially excited when I talk about friends that I made in LA.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, wait, this is somebody that I met in my adult city.
Yeah.
Somebody that I didn't drag from college or, high school or anything like that. This is a friend that I made out here on my own, which is cool.
And you're like, oh, we all like were brought here by circumstance and now we get to enjoy like this life that we've built like together.
Totally.
Which is like, again, you can say that about anywhere that you go. Like moving anywhere is like a big leap. And if you choose not to leave and not move, whatever. It's just what I'm finding about life, dude. It's just like day by day, roll with the punches. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. And like, there's also kind of this notion of like, I think there's this really toxic narrative that when people choose to leave LA, it's because they gave up. Maybe they just were ready for their next chapter.
Or also you can come back.
Yeah.
Like you might be like, okay, I need to go make some money for a couple of years. Maybe I'll come back.
Yeah. Or like maybe I like, like people like, I don't think leaving a city is giving up. I think it's like literally opening up a new chapter.
Yes.
So
yes.
I don't know. There's a lot of stigma when it comes to like LA life.
Totally.
I don't know. It's also like about recognizing what you want out of life for the chapter that you're in. And like, there's a lot of people that kind of were like, I want to be a homeowner by this age. I want to start a family by this age. I want to do this, that, whatever.
Yep.
All of which are things that seem pretty much impossible to do in this city. But that's not really what I want to do right now. Yep. I want to be here and I want to be goofy with my friends and I want to sing and dance on camera. And that's that.
And that is that.
So it's like, I'm right where I need to be.
Absolutely. I constantly feel that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think maybe for our spitball, what if we give some of our like pack hacks?
I know, I was going to suggest that too. I mean, that's what we talked about, but I was hoping you remember.
Let's do some pack hacks. Anything in particular of like when you're moving from one place to another. So you said to call the first moving company that you find on Google. Got it.
Yeah, and make sure that they're like a bunch of men who are going to literally disrespect the shit out of you and think you're a dumb idiot.
Yep, you got that?
I will say one of mine that I think like a lot of people know this hack, but I didn't, and I think it's really helpful, is to like take your clothes on the hanger and squash them together and then just put a trash bag under them and tie it and transport it like that.
Yep. And then you can just hang them up instead of having to rehang each individual one. That's a great one.
Literally amazing. Like you don't have to take all of your clothes off of a hanger and put it anywhere else. You could just transport it to one place to the other.
Smart.
Amazing.
This isn't necessarily a hack, but I guess if you are considering using movers, definitely can be smart, obviously, when you work with the right company. Like, it can take some of the weight off of you, quite literally. But if you're going to do that route or like a U-Haul or some sort of situation, just understand usually like you're paying a lot of the times for convenience, you know? It's like, yes, you could save money, but then you'll have to do a lot more work. Or, you know, okay, maybe I'm going to spend a little bit more and that'll be a lot easier on me, so then I can do some sort of other move. And then I'll also mention, right, like, again, not necessarily a hack, but if you do find that it's particularly stressful to have that like 24-hour turnaround on move-in day, see if you can vacate 15 days early and potentially move in a couple days early. Like, work with your management team. The worst they can do is say no, but you can try to at least communicate. Sometimes they'll do something called a prorated rent, which means they'll just charge you for a couple of extra days. Again, might be worth it for your convenience.
Yeah, those are good tips.
The last tip I'll give as well is to label everything.
Oh, yeah.
That's the planner in me. But like, if you can, like, separate boxes or bins based on which room it'll go in, right? All the kitchen stuff should be in one central place. And it'll just be easier if you label that, because then movers especially can put the boxes where they need to, save you all the trouble. And then overall, mental advice, what I'll give, like I said, change can be scary. It can be exciting as well. Like a new, fresh environment, it just means that you're going to grow and you're going to learn more about yourself. You're going to discover more about the city that you're moving into. And that is a really beautiful thing. I think I've said this before, but my favorite thing is when I feel accustomed and familiar to a place, so much so that I'm able to be like, oh, that's a new ramen place that just opened there. Like, I love being able to detect when like a new shop has opened up around my home.
That's how I feel about when I run into people I know. Like, I remember like when I was moving to LA, I was really nervous and I was like crying to my mom. I was like, no one's gonna recognize me like in the grocery store. And like, now it's so different. I literally, like, the other day I was at Disneyland and literally someone behind me was like, Rowan? And I turned around and it was my friends. Like, I knew some people there.
They were like, are you on the internet?
Yeah. But like, literally, like, I run into people. My mom always like jokes with me. She's like, you know, people everywhere. I'm like, well, yeah, because now I have a community out here. Like, so feels good. I had speaking of friends, I was going to say another piece of advice that I have for people moving is like, ask your friends. Like, literally, that is one of those things, especially in your early 20s, where it's like, I believe you have a responsibility to each other as friends to help one another, because eventually you'll need their help. They'll need your help. You'll need their help.
Yeah.
Whatever. You'd be surprised how many people would want to get on board with just like carrying boxes up a flight of stairs if it means that they get pizza that you order for them at the end of it or something.
Totally.
And
then you just pay it forward. Next time they're moving, you're like, hey, I'm your guy.
That's what I always say about driving your friends to the airport. No one wants to do it. No one wants to drive / pick up from LAX. But when it's time for you to go to LAX, you will say, yeah. And it's not about owing each other anything. It's just about the cycle of humanity. I saw a TikTok recently where it was like, people are afraid to like ask their friends to just do things anymore. Like, you have to be like, can you drive me to the airport? I'll pay you. And it's like, no, just drive me to the airport because you're my friend and I'll help you out one day too.
Exactly. I think that's a great place to finish that up.
I have to pee.
I have to pee too.
Oh my God, we can sit on each other's laps. On the toilet? You want to go? You close the show.
I realized at the beginning, too, I said I'm moving, and I just want to be clear that I'm still going to be in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah,
I'm just moving apartments. I literally was just thinking back to the beginning of being like, I'm moving out of the country, and I'm never coming back.
I guess that I also contributed to that because I was like, she used to live 8 minutes away, and now she lives 1,000.
Yeah, right,
because she's like, nah, she's still here.
We'll put it in the show notes. Still going to be in LA, don't you worry. Y'all, hopefully this was helpful. If you are thinking about moving, maybe this episode comes in at the right time where you're like, I was just thinking about moving to LA. Move to LA, and then maybe you could come see Spitball.
Yeah, and if you move to LA and you go see a movie at the Burbank AMC 16, make sure you shield your eyes when the elevator's open and hope that there's not someone literally doing doggy style in front of you.
Period.
She wasn't on her period.
And now we have to leave upset. I hope you have a good week. I hope if you are moving that it isn't as stressful and that there is excitement on the other end for you. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, leave a review, and comment down below what your building manager was like. I want to know their name and like any funny interactions that you have. I did not get to talk about the lore of my building manager that Logan and I had named Marilyn. Oh, there is a lot.
Sure. We could do a part 2 to moving because landlords and building managers are freaks.
It's hilarious. Yes. All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Dolly, you did great.
Dolly, awesome. Maybe a little less makeup.
Yeah. And Dolly, can you not talk over us next time?
Dolly, stop speaking.
Dolly.
Over.
Literally talk the entire episode.
Literally.